most of it's really more difficult to find. So here we go, appendix 3 here. Definitions. Yes. Data application, security, reporting. So who this was reported to? Senior management, CIO, and in terms of so each agency, major application, major application that requires special attention to security due to the risk of the magnitude of impact from the loss or part of the IAC trial. That could be availability, but also could be integrity. Use of the different document system would change the integrity. So it could be integrity or misuse. More likely integrity rather than confidentiality. Granted, you could take a confidential document and misuse it, but chances are it's more integrity oriented. Or unauthorized access. That's just access. Well, there's your integrity statement there too. But basically, the agency has to have a designated approving authority, which is the responsible keyword here, to basically answer the question. Authority. So what's the difference between responsibility and accountability?
Accountability is that overall accountable for responsibility is a person that will
So could I be the person that's responsible but not necessarily accountable?
No, one person accountable.
Should be, yes.
One person accountable is multiple people responsible, informed, or
Now here's what it's for. They think that they're transferring responsibility, but what they're really trying to do is transfer accountability. So if I say I want you to take out the trash, right? What happens if you don't take out the trash? Well, first of all, if I say take out the trash, who's now accountable? If I say I want you to take out the trash, then I'm putting the responsibility and transferring the accountability to you.
well, that's assuming that you have overall authority to transfer.
Right.
If you ask her to answer those, you're still accountable to keep it going.
Right. So when she doesn't do it, basically she's wasn't responsible for taking out the trash. She can do it. It's not our responsibility. So the accountability is still back. Right. So accountability, you gotta watch for that. There's people who try to transfer. Similar to responsibility, but really they're still you're like try to you're not accountable for it. You don't do it. That means you right back to the senior. And you'll see that. Watch the news. Watch how many people they go over here for this. They're accountable. Go over there. I do. Yeah, but as soon as you don't do it, it's right back in. So I can make you responsible for something if you don't do it. I still have to.
Right. I felt like it didn't go after him, but you, as my department manager, obviously you didn't want him, so you didn't, not pay rent.
Because you weren't responsible enough to pay your rent, now I'm being held accountable for that. Exactly what it is. But if you watch the news, and see the cover folks out, right? Watch the news and stare at the word accountability and watch every news clip and see who's being accountable, who's pushing the accountability. this, and that, and the other. And you'd be surprised at how many times you see that accountability trying to transfer. And it could be in cyber terrorism, it could be in day-to-day politics. Really doesn't even matter. Watch for the transference of accountability. That it really should be. Alright. So, let's see, requirements. It's basically, A130 says everybody's got to have a plan for security. And there's assign roles and responsibilities to that. So they're going to be clearly defined. Should be clearly defined, especially when you get inside the agency. That they're going to be reviewed on a periodic basis, and then ultimately you are authorized or you have permission to operate any hardware, software, or firmware, and that. In other words, you gotta stamp of approval. That's what your authorization is. The OMB memorandums, the general guidance comes in these this format here, right? So what is a POAM? Plan of action and milestones. All right, the continuity plans, and then there's the FDCC, which is the Federal Desktop Core Configuration.
Federal Desktop what? Core.
Yes, core configuration. And I want you guys to circle all this down here. This is very, very quick of what are all the M documents. So for the manager certification, let's see, you need to look at this. You need to know all of the, M2U00120 and basically what does that mean and what year. So, because that gives you the time, which will help you. And then reporting guidance, you have the Government Information Security Reduction Act. I forgot what you mean. Information Security Reduction Act. I think it's called. Let's just look it up. It is Government Information Security Reform Act. Reduction Act. I didn't like the word Reform Act. FISMA, we know that, or anything involving personally identifiable information. And then policies, how that applies, basically just the rules. And then again, we saw the implementation guidance. You remember each president calls it different, but Homeland Security presidential directives, e-government acts, and so forth. And the next couple pages are all these M documents. The ones related for privacy are all listed. The ones related to HSPD 12 are all listed. Nice, clean format. I like how they're grouped together in these terms. Like, for example, privacy. I really like that because most references they can find it doesn't help you distinguish between them, but when you group them by purpose or category, then you can start separating privacy versus whatever it is. So like they had specific ones specifically for WikiLeaks, for example. Mishandling of classified information. What was done? Data sharing. How do you file share yet still protect privacy? IT project review, cybersecurity. Notice where that falls. Where cybersecurity fall in that? Do you know where it used to be? Think about it, forgot. Cybersecurity.
Each agency.
Nah. Each agency would probably have a department of people that would work on like web stuff. But cybersecurity, you guys gotta get this. If I say it, like, that would make sense.
FCC?
Close with the NSA.
Oh, okay.
No, that with FCC with the Communications Commission. That was a good guess. No, State Department. International cyber terrorism. The internet's global. that was moved. I'm sure there's still an element in State Department, but this should be under Homeland Security. I would consider it Homeland Security now. Web, health information, DNS security for the few people that do implement that. All right, business continuity, and then of course you can just list the rest. So again, we're lucky enough that we don't have to get into that. It's helpful to see how they're grouped together, but not necessarily required. All right, trusted internet connections. Ooh, there's a bunch more. Update on the Trusted Internet Connection Initiative. Compliance with that. Now, this has to deal with who you're connecting to. All right, so let's see, what does this mean? All right, so from a technical point of view, I've worked at multiple agencies, and you just can't get a connection to any government agency because you want a connection. There's the ISP of the government, which is basically AT&T, and then if you want to connect one federal agency to the other, both sides have to agree to that connection. It's not it can be one way, and in some cases I've heard war stories about it being one way, and then you were going to do a migration, and they couldn't get the firewalls rules changed to get bidirectional communication, so the requests went out, but no requests actually came back in, so things would time out, and they needed something done, of course, a year ago, and they're just now doing it now, but nobody's changed the rules because they're out of your agency, I'm at my agency, and it just becomes a wild goose chase. But every connection should be a trusted connection. All right, so reporting. Well, you can pretty much guess that we're doing continuous monitoring here. This has changed with the Department of Homeland Security. How big is the subject of cybersecurity now?
Huge.
Yeah. You guys notice the job fair signs have changed? They used to say, computer security job fair, this location. Now it's cybersecurity job fair. If you search any one of the job sites for cybersecurity versus security, you'll see a lot more cybersecurity over them.
Even the television ads now talk UMUC and or whatever.
Exactly.
Are cybersecurity.
Actually, those UMUC's been around. They've been probably doing it the longest.
But they weren't advertising it. They didn't see it plastered all over the media.
Yeah, now you're starting to see it plastered all over the place. You want to speak to Inspector General reporting? No. Privacy reporting, and then of course any questions that come down between agencies. You can generically label that as facts, if you will. This is probably worth some attention. I want you to circle this: automate security-related activities. So what this means is, from a technical point of view, like for example, you turn logging and auditing on, so that way you have a log file somewhere. So not having your audit files or your log files set up appropriately and protected with confidentiality and integrity, that could be a bad thing. Everybody needs to, one, have activities that ultimately are controls that are put in place, but also have certain features in those controls set to automatically log, audit, and monitor. You can feed information in it. Well, here you go, right? Data feeds directly from security management tools. This would include log analysis tool, and also you can write in the legend here, data mining and data warehousing. I don't specifically state it here, but as far as technological tools, you want to find trends and patterns in log files, they basically have to have a conversation about data warehousing, which is the storing of data, and then data mining, which is the trends and the pattern. In theory, we could have a government-wide benchmarking and security postures, like that's actually works. So let's do you guys seen the FSMA report card?
No, but I've heard of report cards coming up red and that kind of stuff.
Let's see if we can find it. I don't think this is it. Let's try. There you go. So I just pull up an older one. It's 2007. Anything startling?
Seems to be a,
Yeah,
not much in the middle. Everybody's either very good or very bad.
How about Nuclear Regulatory Commission?
Warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, I think it's a little startling. This is actually a lot better. There's a lot more aids here than, for our example, 2004, 2005.
Now, scroll back up if you can.
Sure.
DHS, that's some compilation of all of the agencies under DHS then? Like an average? Because there's like, 20-something.
Yeah, notice they do it on major department. You might be able to find a granular version of this. So like labor, let's say, this one probably only has Health and Human Services. Here it is, Department of Health and Human Services. So that doesn't include, well, it does include, it summarizes basically National Institute of Health, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, and Centers for Disease Control, and I think 2 other agencies. So it goes in the major department and those sub-departments. However, every single federal agency gets its independent rating. It's just summarized here. So I get, look, government-wide, so I guess they do it at the higher level. But yeah, the CIO of every agency, in 2005. It's nicer to see the chart because, I don't know, it just is. All right, so Inspector General, you'll report things like certification, accreditation, incident handling, training, remote access, identity management, contractor oversight, contingency planning. I mean, we could do frequently asked questions on this, but it's basically who, what, when, where, why, and how addressed. Like where do we get the guidelines from? What does authorization mean as a person? Or, why do you need a plan of action, milestone? Training, DOD 8570. Right? You guys know what HSPD 12 is specifically? For 1 point?
Isn't that PII?
No. It's your common access card for all federal agencies. So I could go to any federal agency with my CAT card and buzz in.
And that's going to happen when? Not in my lifetime. I can't even go from our building in Springfield to our headquarters in Washington with the same card. And we're in the same agency, let alone interagency. Can't do intra-agency, let alone inter-agency.
Right.
So, good idea, but...
I'll make sure I take the laughs out of the recording. All right. Yeah, no, it's a lot. I actually certified one of the systems for an agency I worked at for that specific request. So I did the test. My experience with CNA is more on the certification side. So I basically was the gopher that went and did all the technical, I'm a technical guy. So I did all the technical evaluations of that stuff and then work with accreditation authorities to get those packages authorized to operate. You guys ever heard of
Technical evaluation on using the CAD card for physical access and stuff like that.
Well, it was actually getting the system in the agency to use it and to basically connect, and so you can enroll people, you can process people, but it was basically one laptop. The problem with HSPD 12 is the standard is based off of a DoD standard, so all of the non-DoD agencies have exceptions out the wazoo because they don't meet that standard, so it's hard to get, that's one of the challenges, is that it's hard to get everybody to that DoD standard as opposed to a non-DoD standard. Because you can't take the DoD and basically downgrade them. You have to bring every other agency up, and that's a lot more challenging than anything else. All right, next we got the Federal Desktop Core configuration, and this is good stuff. You can actually get templates and things like that. So FDCC. This is a good website to go to. It's fdcc.nist.gov. Federal Desktop Core configuration.nist.gov. And again, the memos, OMB memos, okay, provides guidance to agencies on what should be done to improve and maintain an effective configuration settings on basically desktop computers. So it's a template oriented process. Have you ever heard of the term OVAL? You guys should have heard of that in Security Plus. It's Open Vulnerability and Assessment Language, which is really just XML that you can import and export. You guys want to go to the 6th Annual IT Security Automation Conference? It's in Baltimore.
That was already done.
Who went to that? All right. So basically, it standardizes the desktop environment. They have different templates that you can apply. You guys familiar with this security configuration and analysis tool? It's kind of a detour. You file, add, remove, snap in. Giving you the technical version, but it was security configuration and templates. And so what happens is you have templates that you can get. And so you can basically open a database of computer settings, and you can analyze your computer and even configure your computer with basically CAN settings. So this is kind of, I guess, kind of the older way of doing it with the Microsoft Management Console. So basically what I have to do is import the template from this and basically apply it to the computer and instantly the computer will do the I don't know specifically. Imagine that I think it was looking at stuff that we're on and then watching it on. So you can analyze your computer, which basically gives you a comparison to the database setting compared to your settings. So you can see all the mismatches in the configuration. And so actually let's do it this way. Let me do a policy object. So basically all of these settings that are on your computer, right, you literally can go to just about any bucket here, just folder or bucket, and so like all of this stuff would be basically predefined. So NIST goes in and figures out what's the best setting to use, and then they give you the template to say, enable this feature or disable this feature, or put this value in here, and you're done. So we're kind of looking at administrative templates here, but it gets a little bit different than just that itself. The cool part is basically you've got a set it and forget it mentality. Each agency now does not have to come up with this stuff magically on their own, right? And this can provide it to everybody, and everybody can import the template, apply it to the systems, and see how far they are. So now everybody's operating from the same deck of cards, hence the benefit of standardization, right? And then you've got Security Content Automation Protocol, or SCAP. You'll see references to that. Actually, I saw that right here. There it is. Security Automation. I know. Oh, here it is. SCAT is what I saw. SCAT content, group policy objects, and virtual hard drives that have been released for Windows 7 and even later. So, it's, again, more automation features. And you can report on it. So that's good in itself. So SCAT tools you can use to scan for the configurations, hence the certification. You can scan for that stuff and then, get reporting on it. And it, it meets FSMA, guidance. You just basically, answer the questions. It's pretty straightforward. So privacy and reporting, safeguarding publicly identifiable information. If there's a breach in that, what happens? And, my experience with this is that it all has to be captured. We used to get